when you think about the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and we don't have time to get through them all today, I suspect. But one is obviously, I think Trump is much more happy being bullish, taking risks, and almost doing things the unconventional way. So not the traditional DC, what the government departments in many ways would like you to do.
We're joined now by Katy, the Washington editor of the Times. Hello to you, Katy.
Hello.
Hi, Katy. You've been watching then the cabinet meeting of the president in the White House and his remarks on Gaza. Tell me, what are your takeaways from what you've been hearing?
I mean, I think obviously this all comes after the news last night, where Donald Trump took to social media to say that Hamas and Israel had agreed to the first stage of the proposed peace plan. And I think building on from those comments today, it was almost what would you expect from the US president, talking about how he's now up to solving 8 wars, not just 7, how no one else could have done this. He also started talking about some more domestic issues. He likes to, really go for lots of topics rather than just one. But I think, of course, the war is not yet over. So I didn't quite hit the number 8. But you do have a situation where I think there's a lot of optimism in Washington, D.C. and beyond, all the way to the Middle East, that this is a really significant turning point, many hope, in terms of the 2-year war.
And it does, doesn't it, testify what we've seen and what we've heard in Donald Trump's belief in his power to dictate events. And he has used his power over Benjamin Netanyahu in a way that Joe Biden never did, although Joe Biden called himself often a Zionist. In some ways, was Joe Biden, I don't know, hamstrung? Was he hobbled by the strength of his pro-European standing and pro-Israeli standing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you think about the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and we don't have time to get through them all today, I suspect. But one is obviously, I think Trump is much more happy being bullish, taking risks, and almost doing things the unconventional way. So not the traditional DC, what the government departments in many ways would like you to do. So I'm not sure it's so much about a personal affinity to how much you support or don't support Israel, so much as Trump has been getting very, very, very frustrated in recent months that he said he was going to solve all these conflicts, and then he finds that he thinks he's just about sorted it, and then a world leader does something he doesn't like. He, at one point was turning the air blue, I think back in June, about Israel, Iran, saying, they need to get over this. And I think therefore he's been much more willing to put the pressure on, and therefore mean the opponents don't know what's going to happen in response.
The personal and the political, Katy, at that last point, they're the same thing with Donald Trump, aren't they? I mean, he was personally affronted by the attack on Doha by Benjamin Netanyahu, and he wanted Netanyahu not to defy him, to come into line, and he made that very clear. He wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you see the scenes where effectively after that attack, you have Trump basically telling us now he has to call and apologize, almost scolding a naughty schoolboy. Now you have to do X. And I think that the manner in which he does that is not like, predecessors, Joe Biden or other. And I think that how frustrated the president has got has they've almost, yes, he's been frustrated, but the administration have almost started to use it as a tool in their, something they can use to bounce countries in.
Well, and that certainly worked in the case of Benjamin Netanyahu. That's very, very clear. Katy, it's great to talk to you. Do come back and talk to us again very soon. I think we're going to be calling you, as we are always keen to do. We can talk now to Yaroslav Trofimov, the foreign affairs correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Now speaking to us live from Istanbul. Hello to you, Yaroslav.
Great to be back.
Good to have you here. I mean, looking at the deal we have now, it is to be greeted with relief, even a measure of celebration tinged with sadness. There is so much loss in the minds and the hearts of people in the run-up to this moment. What are your feelings, though, about the deal that's being struck now?
Well, there is, as you said, the obvious, the fact that after 2 years of tremendous bloodshed and destruction in Gaza, but also in Israel and also across the region, finally it looks like this war is coming to an end. But obviously it's a very tenuous ceasefire that has yet to take effect. It's not a peace deal. None of the underlying issues have been resolved. And it's very optimistic of President Trump to claim that the region is finally finding peace.
Yes,
I wish I could be as optimistic as he is, but I think very few people in the region are.
well, indeed, and we should focus, pretty closely on the plight of the suffering people of Palestine. The president spoke of some 70,000 losses. We can't be exact about the number, but it's an horrendous total. And he described this as big retribution. Well, that is one way of putting it. There's certainly a people in desperate need of humanitarian relief. Now, the deal says more deals should be allowed into Gaza. I mean, come on, be confident about that happening in your judgment. I've been listening to Israeli government people talking about the need to be careful about what is let in, to look out for arms and munitions and so on, which is what they've been saying all along.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Right now, we're talking about the first stage of the ceasefire because it has stages. In its first stage, you'll have the release of the hostages. You'll have the release of a large number of prisoners in Israeli custody, and then you have an Israeli pullback from parts of the Gaza Strip, not the whole Gaza Strip, and then the reopening of entry points for international assistance.
Yes.
So we're not talking about throwing open the gates of Gaza
Yeah.
or of the full Israeli pullback from Gaza
No.
at this stage.
No, but the
Uh,
needs of the Palestinians when it comes to humanitarian aid is urgent
enormous.
today. It's urgent now.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is an area where 2 million people lived at the beginning of this latest phase of the war, and that is utterly and completely devastated. So obviously, the needs are enormous, and they're unable to sustain themselves because there's nothing left there. There's no economy. It's completely dependent on the outside world.
And you do wonder, when will it be that journalists are allowed into that zone to see what is happening? I was listening to an Israeli government spokesperson, another one earlier on, saying that the journalists are allowed in. Well, that's simply not been the case, hasn't it?
No, no. I mean, the only access for journalists in this 2 years of war in Gaza was as part of a carefully orchestrated embed with the Israeli military. There was only one or two exemptions to this when some journalists managed to get in from Egypt in the early phases of the war with international, I think UAE humanitarian aid, but just for a day or two. So access to Gaza for journalists was from outside of Gaza has been pretty much banned for any independent reporting since October 2023.
All right, Yaroslav Trifimov at the Wall Street Journal, thank you for joining me.
As progress is made toward achieving these goals, Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great vice president, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close. But it's we're right there.